Good. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Town of Hamilton Board of Selectmen meeting for September 23rd. We'll start off, as we always do, with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Great, thank you. Let's see, first of all, board announcements and board openings. We just have one, which is a nice thing, which is the Board of Health. We have one opening. Now we have time for public comment, 3 minutes for anything that's not on the agenda. Would anybody like to speak? Mark?
Hi, Mark Johnson, Patton Drive. Just a quick comment on the consent agenda, on something that's not on the consent agenda. Sort of in early August, there was a process by which the Affordable Housing Trust had asked for people to join its board. The Board of Selectmen dutifully had posted it multiple times over many times. They got an applicant. The applicant got onto the early August consent agenda, and perhaps there should have been a process by which that happened. But so, it was on there. Subsequently, it came off. You now have another qualified candidate, which is great. Town's better off for multiple candidates. But we now have a consent agenda with the second person, and the first person is by the wayside. Not a problem. The point is the Board of Selectmen has made a point of being more transparent about its processes, and it seems like something caused one to be pulled, another one to be advanced. It's not a problem because it's the Board of Selectmen's prerogative as to who to appoint. The Board of Selectmen does not have to consult, although sometimes it does, Affordable Housing Trust for who they would prefer if there is a process. But I just wanted to call that out and say this doesn't seem all that transparent. And if you do have two good quality candidates, fantastic. Either you, the Board of Selectmen, or the Affordable Housing Trust have a process, figure out who you want. Hopefully you'll have another vacancy and both will be on, so that, I just want, you guys have been making a big thing about process and about transparency, and I just want to sort of reflect that back and say, in this case, it just looks a little bit less than that.
Great, thank
Mark.
you. Good comments. And hold tight, I think we've got some solutions to fix it moving forward. Okay, Selectmen and Town Managers report. Do you want to start, Bill?
Well, actually, I'm gonna pass mine off because I was at both meetings. I had to leave early, so that was at the meeting on the 19th for the master plan. Everybody else sort of stayed. I had to leave early, so
Yep.
I think I'll have somebody else give the summary of. And
Okay.
also, then there's a building committee, but that meeting's gonna be this week on Wednesday, so I'll be able to update that better after Wednesday.
Okay.
So, but I'll let somebody else, maybe Joe or Sean or Rosemary, speak to the. Because everybody was there. It was a good meeting. We were all there, so glad to see
Yeah.
all five of us showed up to the
Yeah.
meeting. So on the
It was a
19th.
good meeting.
Fortunately, I had to leave early, so.
All right. How about you, Rosie?
Sure. So the Affordable Housing Trust meeting was last week, and we talked about the proposal for 7 units over on Asbury Street, and it was a great meeting. I really enjoyed talking to the applicant. It's a very gentle proposal, and there were a lot of abutters there, and we had a very nice conversation, and it looks good so far. The other thing was the Council on Aging, the master planning meeting. There were a lot of people there. It was very interesting. All of the Board of Selectmen reported, and we actually opened a meeting because there was an absolute full house there of selectmen. And the consultant talked to us about what were some proposals for different types of housing. There were many comments afterwards, not a ton about the actual proposals, but that led to other questions, and so people were talking about sort of housing in general in Hamilton, and I thought it was a very good discussion.
Excellent. Great, thank you. How about you, Sean?
Not too much tonight. The rec board is meeting as we speak, so news to follow on that. And also the Hamilton Wenham Cultural Council grant applications we do in the next couple weeks, if anybody at home or in the audience is interested, you can go to the Cultural Council or the Mass Cultural, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but you can go to the Mass State website. I can't think of the exact spot to go. Do you know,
I think it's the
Joe?
Massachusetts Cultural Council
Yeah,
website.
yeah, and then you can get your applications there. And they give out about, they try to spread the grants out as much as they can to get as many people some of the money. You may not always get exactly what you're asking for, but you will probably get some if you've got a good grant proposal.
And what type of things would people apply for?
Let's see, over the years, different places have applied is the Community House with their Stage 284, some events at the park, usually arts performance, things like that. Over the years, there's been a good handful of them that people have applied for. Another one that has gotten a few grants over the years is, and I forget the name of the program, but it's an instrument lending program. And so kids can get instruments to play basically as a grant for free, so it works out pretty good for those kids.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. And Darcy? Yeah.
Yes, we went to Senator Tarr and Representative Hill's COA cookout. I saw you guys there. And that was a very nice occasion. Went to a FinCom liaison meeting. We discussed some warrant articles. I was brainstorming, and I said, gee, maybe we should ask Pingree if they would like to contribute to our ambulance fund, because they rent ice time to youth groups, youth hockey groups. And over the past week, we had an incident where a child, a 10-year-old, had separated his shoulder on the ice, and they had to wait an inordinate number of minutes. I know it was over 30 because I was listening to it on the radio. So we might want to consider broaching, the subject with them, because they have an interest in making sure that their clients are protected. And in fact, I believe youth hockey programs, because I'm an old hockey mom, you have to have a presence within so many minutes of the rink. So that might be something they could latch onto. Maybe we could discuss that with them, because I'm sure that that's their business, and they've got to make sure that they're giving the families what they expect.
Right.
So that was one thing. Let's see. I think that's about it.
All right. Yeah, very briefly, I also enjoyed for a while the barbecue at the Council on Aging, and that was very nice of Brad Hill and Bruce Tarr to show up. Rosie, thanks for the update on the housing quorum. I thought it was very well done, very well prepared, presented, and good turnout, which was nice. And then finally, the Town Hall Building Committee, we're going to hear a little bit from Mike, but I was there for only 2.5 hours of, I think, a 6-hour meeting today, which, 5-hour meeting, okay, so, anyway. But we'll hear more about that, and kudos to that committee for doing such a great job, and we'll expand on that. Joe, did you have anything?
I got a couple things I want to say. I just, the whole report will be on the online tomorrow, but I'll hit a couple of high points for you. For one thing, on Thursday, September 26th at 6:30, in this room at the Memorial Room at Town Hall, we'll be having an open public discussion about the trash collection program in Hamilton, and what our options are going forward, what our needs are and what our options are going forward. Selectmen Olson and Kennedy will be joining me, along with Nick Tenson from the FinCom, and we'll be trying to kind of share, as well as members of the Waste Reduction Committee. I do not want to forget them. They've had some good, they've done a lot of good work on trying to propose some programmatic changes, and we'll discuss those changes and why they're being proposed and what the benefits are to the town of Hamilton. That will be at 6:30, so we're hoping for some public input into that process. Also, I'm going to ask folks again to remember to go onto the town website and click on the link to sign up for Flash Vote. This is a new service we're trying to bring to the town to just take the temperature of our residents from time to time on different issues in front of us as a town administration, as town government. And the idea is that we need to build a group of at least 150 to 200 regular participants who would sign up to be able to get these 1-minute surveys 4 to 6 times a year. So we got about halfway there, so we need to get it about another 100 or so to sign up. So I ask you to do that. And I would be remiss if I didn't point out that our valuable and friend, Community Projects Coordinator Dor Fox is retiring this week. Dor has been a part-time employee, but everybody knows how much he actually puts into the job he does here at Town Hall. He's been a liaison to several of our very important committees, the Historic District Commission, the Affordable Housing Trust, the Community Preservation Committee, and I'm very sad to lose him. Happy for him that he gets to retire. He deserves to enjoy himself and not work so hard, but he leaves really big shoes to fill, and so we'll be a little short-staffed here at Town Hall for the next couple weeks. In addition to Dor's retirement, we're going to have Patrick head out to take care of a medical need, and he'll be back in a couple weeks. So, people, I hope you'll bear with us. We're going to need your patience and understanding as we try to muddle through for the next few weeks.
Thank you, Dor.
Yeah, thank you.
Great working
Dor.
with you.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the consent agenda item. I'll read off the items. We've got a few here. Approve road closure permit for the downtown holiday event. Approve a permit for the Purple Heart Trail 10K on November 10th. Approve permits for Gabe's Run on November 29th. Approve permit to sell Christmas trees at Patton Park. Some minutes here. Approve the minutes of August 26th BOS meeting. Approve minutes of August 26th BOS executive session. Approve minutes of August 29th BOS emergency meeting. Appoint Margaret Crouch to the Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust.
Old.
Good. Let's see here. Appoint Lindsay Peabody to the Hamilton Cultural Council. Appoint Laura Range to the Hamilton Cultural Council. And appoint Angelo Salamone as building inspector under the Joint Inspectional Services Program with Wenham. All right, so we have a hold here. So do we move forward and approve everything without the hold? Is that how we do it?
Yeah, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda without the held items.
Second.
Thank you. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, excellent.
I know
All
the
right.
inspector was here if you wanted to say anything, but
Angelo is here in the room. If you just wanted to meet him,
Yeah.
he can get up and say hello.
I think that'd be great.
As you know, this is part of our joint program with the town of Wenham. Angelo was appointed by unanimous vote of the Board of Selectmen in Wenham last week, so you guys make it official. And Angelo,
Say
hello.
a few words just to introduce myself. Angelo Salamone of Linfield. I began my career in the construction industry after high school, where I trained as a carpenter. I look forward to serving Hamilton and Wenham. When I decided to become an inspector, close to home in a rural community is where I wanted to be versus a big city atmosphere. That said, I intend to meet and exceed expectations, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angelo.
Thank you.
I'd like to just point out for you all that Angelo and the other finalists were interviewed by a panel of three. They included our Patrick Reffett and Jackie Bresnahan, and help me, Margaret's last name? Margaret Hoffman in the town of Wenham. And Angelo was the unanimous recommendation of that committee, so.
That's great.
He's got the full faith and support of everybody in both towns, so thanks.
Great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Look forward to working with you.
Welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay, so now we have the hold item, appoint Margaret Crouch to the Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust.
So to Mark Johnson's point earlier, just the kind of, the bit of an issue that's arose with this appointment. I have nothing against Marnie, I don't know her, but I feel that we need to put a hold on this and kind of reconsider the two applicants, just because we don't have a set process for this. And I'd like to, if it's all right with the board, I'd like to task Joe with putting together a policy for when we do have these appointments, so that's, we try to always have a transparent process.
I mean, although we don't have a process, the precedent's always been if we have two candidates, we discuss the two candidates.
Right.
Or get a recommendation from the
Right.
board.
Right, and plus
Have
this-
some open
the
dialogue,
previous
right.
applicant was on a consent agenda, and then we didn't have that meeting because they got canceled, then it just kind of vaporized. So there's a bit of a kerfuffle in the whole process, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And I want to make sure that both applicants have their kind of due diligence done so that people can talk to them, or we can get a recommendation from the Affordable Housing Trust or whatever board it may be, getting a recommendations from, if it's a FinCom or a Cultural Council, really any of our boards, so that when they come to us, they've been vetted by that board, they've met with that board's talked to them, we've talked to them if we'd like to, because typically I like to call the candidates when I kind of get the applications and stuff like that. And I just think the process would be a lot more transparent and, what's the other word I'm looking for? Just that people would know that kind of process, because I think the people that were involved in this part, they didn't know if they were appointed, didn't know what was going on, their name was in, now it's not, where they're thinking there's backdoor discussions and stuff like that. Hopefully there isn't, but this would kind of end that if we had some kind of a policy going forward for appointees. I think it would be a good process and project to do.
It sounds pretty easy. I think actually we do have a couple of members of the AHT here tonight, and I'm also a member of the AHT, so I think that's a reasonable request, that people who are on the board will have an opportunity to express their opinion.
Yeah, and plus I don't want to discourage anybody from volunteering. We have so few volunteers, we're always dipping in kind of the same pool with our groups and people that participate. So anytime we get more than one application, it's really good to, review those applications. And if someone comes in and they don't get picked for an appointment, can they be on another board, or how else can they help out? So I think this will help that whole process. We don't want to stifle anybody from volunteering or feel bad about the process.
Right,
So.
right. I think it's a great idea. Great idea.
You ask and I will deliver.
Well, we would look at it, and I think I agree, having the boards talk about their particular candidates. I think that's important. And I would like to hear from the board members tonight who came to offer their opinion. I think that's important.
Are both candidates here tonight?
I don't know. I know, the chair of the AHT is here, and I think there's another member of the AHT here. 2 other members of the AHT here. So I think that is important.
Russ, yes?
Hi, I'm Russ Tanzer, and I am at 100 Orton's Road, and I'm the chairman of the Affordable Housing Trust. I think a vetting process and a process is a great idea, A. And I want to clarify something that you just said, Sean, which is, in the past, the only vetting body for members of our board are the BOS.
Right.
Oh, okay.
I applied all those years ago, and I didn't have any meetings with the Affordable Housing Trust, any of the members. I attended many, many meetings to become involved. At some point or another, I applied to the Board of Selectmen, and at some point thereafter, I think I got a call from Scott maybe, and said, "You've been voted in, and congratulations," or something like that.
You're probably unopposed, but.
I probably wasn't.
Yeah, he was the only one at the time.
So at any rate.
We're a shoo-in.
But congratulations.
Thanks, Bill. So, that was the process then, and the circumstance seems to be something different now. It's great that we have 2 folks that are interested, 2 able-bodied people, residents that want to be involved. You're right, Sean. We've got to embrace those that come forward. It's always difficult to fill board seats here in this community, and that's just the way it is. And we should look at it. That's my feeling of it all.
I agree with everything people have said. I'm not prepared to vote tonight because I haven't had a chance to vet both candidates. So I prefer that we put it off for 2 weeks and have the opportunity to vet the candidates and talk to them. And it's an important role in town. And
Well, it is.
so we got to make sure we get the right person
and
on
I
it.
think that
yeah.
both candidates should be invited back, in my opinion. And there should be perhaps at that point, Joe can have the process nailed down. Good man, Joe.
Thanks.
And then maybe decisions can be made.
When's your next meeting, Russ?
2nd, I think, October 2nd. But that's all about the housing production
Yeah.
plan and all, so we're going to be pretty tied up with that.
Tied up.
So that meeting's on the 2nd, and I would ask that both candidates attend and listen in and be involved.
Well, okay, that's lovely, although I'm not so willing to just put it off again. I think it's been put off for a while, and we came prepared to vote tonight. I've met the candidate and was very impressed with her performance at the AHT. She was interactive, she was open-minded, she was knowledgeable about the issues, asked good questions. I feel very comfortable.
I don't disagree, but this decision is on the Board of
Yeah, I don't know if there's a
Selectmen's
rush to
shoulder.
the decision, because
It's
I have not met
unusual.
them, nor are they here today, so I'm not ready to vote.
Yeah, I agree with Bill.
Okay. All right, we'll put it on then for the next agenda then, and in the meantime, if everybody could reach out to Anna and Marnie, right? And,
I'll provide both applications to everybody and through email tomorrow.
oh, that'd be great.
Thank
We'll
you.
get both
Russ.
applications.
Thank
All right,
you.
thank you.
All right, thank you, Russ. So, this is, what? A motion to just put it on hold? Is that what we want?
I make a motion to put this on the next agenda.
Okay,
Two candidates, and have dialogue and vote between the two candidates.
all right,
Second?
second. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Great.
Joe, do we need to do any kind of a formal ask of you for the
I-
policy?
I feel like that was formal.
That was pretty formal. I didn't know if I had it for the minutes.
I think everybody watching at home pretty much understands what you want me to do, so I'll
Feet to
do
the
that.
fire.
I'll do that.
Excellent. All right, on to the agenda. We have a National Grid poll hearing. So welcome, I think we're
You're up.
ready to hear.
Sabita Mahaber Shihi, representing National Grid, 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. This is to install 5 poles to service the new solar field on Chabaca Road.
Thank you for coming, Suita. Just to fill in the board, I think I updated you recently, but I'll retrace those steps. The board has previously established a policy by which you just, want to know about double poles when we get a poll hearing for a new pole. These 5 poles are all new poles. They wouldn't be creating any double poles. And our existing list of double poles is down to a handful. Literally, I think it's 7. It was 6, but then there was a car accident on Highland that caused another one. But it's down to.
No, they already removed.
Oh, they did? Wow,
Yeah,
that's a
the
good,
next
I
day.
like that. That's
I
even
woke
better.
up the morning, there was a double pole, then the
That's
next
even
day it was
better.
gone, so.
That's even better. Of the 6.
Look at,
or-
she's all smiles.
Of the 5 or 6 remaining, I believe that we have equipment on 3 of them, and Chief Burnett informed me last Friday that he was gonna take, he had a vendor that could take care of removing our equipment, so that will move it
Great.
to the next people down, and those poles should be, 3 of those poles should be disappearing very, very soon. So we're doing real well with the removal of double poles, very happy with the current process, and as Sabita pointed out, this is for our solar field, so we hope that you'll look favorably on the request.
So I just have 2 questions, Mr. Chair, if that's all right.
Sure, of course.
Has the Manchester side been approved already?
Yes.
Or just us, okay. And then next question is, we had some issues when I did a site walk with the Conservation Commission out there. And I think the National Grid rep that was out there that day thought that there wouldn't be an issue with some of the wetlands and vernal pools and stuff like that that are right along this kind of area where you're putting the poles. Is all that resolved? I'm hoping that,
Yes.
okay, perfect.
It's with our environmental.
Okay, perfect. That
Great.
satisfies me.
Any other questions? Bill, you have anything?
No, I'm good.
No? Okay, Rosie, all right.
You want me to make a, may
I was
I
gonna
make
say
a
if there's no
motion?
more
Sure,
discussion.
Darcy, yeah.
I make a motion that we vote on the National Grid poll hearings as written.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, great.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
coming
Thank you.
tonight.
Thanks,
Oh.
Susan.
All
Great.
right.
It's getting better and better. Remember how, think about back a year ago, that wasn't such a nice, it was great to
No.
have progress.
He was storming out of here.
Yeah, I know.
Everybody's
Fantastic.
going home
Progress
happy.
is a wonderful thing.
A lot of people were a little unhappy that night. so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Various
Good.
reasons.
Okay, on to the meat and potatoes here tonight. The special town meeting warrant review. We're gonna go through the warrant for final votes and close the warrant.
And Joe, is this the copy that you emailed us?
Yes,
Really?
I believe it is.
Okay.
And so that's technically where I'm still calling that version 2, because little tiny things have been changing here and there, but I don't view that as a change in the warrant. We have with us tonight, I took the liberty of inviting several people to help you with your deliberations and discussions tonight. We have Town Council Tom McEnany. We have Chairman of the FinCom, David Wanger. We have Chairman of the Town Hall Building Committee, Mr. Michael Toomey. We have Chairman of the Community Preservation Committee, Jay Butler. We have a, just general good guy and member of the Town Hall Building Committee and Capcom and several other things, Jack Lawrence. Tim Olson, our DPW Director, and Marissa Batista, our Finance Director, are all here. So hopefully this should be pretty straightforward tonight, but I think you want to get into the weeds on the warrant and make your votes as to language in the warrant, make sure that we get your recommendations into the warrant as well, because that's one of the things that's missing currently in the current draft. You put your votes in there, and those aren't there yet.
Okay.
The warrant version you have, I'll just caution you, it includes Ms. Kennedy's article. I've been tipped off on something, but I left it there until you have an official act. So this warrant has that, but I have another one ready in my office just in case you take the action you said you're going to take.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. And then how, when we're going through here, we'll take votes and then also identify which ones can go under the consent agenda?
Yes, please.
Yes.
Is that the right way to?
Do you want to do that now, or do you want to do that when
At the
Mr.
hearing.
Bowler meets you?
Well,
with
you know
on-
what, if it's okay, Mr. Chair, we could probably wait till Mr. Bowler's in here, because he might have an idea, I mean.
My
ultimately-
recollection is that usually the moderator participates in that discussion with you,
Yeah.
so.
Gotcha.
And he's coming at the next meeting on October 3rd or 4th or whatever.
Okay.
So-
I think if we're feeling like, I don't know if it's heavy lifting really for the consent agenda and stuff, but we could kind of earmark stuff
Yeah, we
tonight,
could.
maybe.
Ask
I mean,
them,
And then,
The obvious stuff we'll ask.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's something, like some of the financial stuff, it's usually,
Yeah.
what,
Housekeeping.
housekeeping
There's not
stuff.
that many articles anyways, but
Yeah, we can just
Right.
earmark them, we don't have to really discuss it too much.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, if that's okay, I mean, I'm kind of going back and forth here. We can wait for Mr. Bowler, or we can kind of,
I would say we earmark the ones that we suggest, and then we can
and then
discuss
ask him
them.
what he
Yeah.
thinks.
Has FinCom voted on all these?
We can ask, you can ask.
And
Mr.
is that
Wager,
something we
but
wanna know
Pretty
before-
much this they have, and I'll get their votes into this as well, but.
We want to know those before we,
Yeah.
do we want to know what they voted before we vote tonight?
Yeah, definitely.
Because you already know, Darcy, right?
The copy.
Good evening. David Wanger,
David.
Boardman Lane. FinCom has voted on the articles and is favorably disposed to recommend all, except Mrs. Kennedy's. But we've had a nice discussion about that, and I want to compliment her, if I may, on her commitment and her diligence in pursuing that issue. And I'm sure we'll see it again come ATM. We are having some difficulty with one of the town hall warrant articles. That is, FinCom has expressed a preference for option B, and that was communicated previously to the board and to the committee. And by the way, while I'm talking positively, I want to acknowledge that the Town Hall Building Committee, in our view, has done a wonderful job with a very complicated issue, so we
Yeah.
appreciate that. We believe, notwithstanding our statement of preference, that the town hall project should go forward, so that if our preference fails and if A becomes the adopted approach, we will still be supportive of it. But a primary problem here is what is going to be put before town meeting for vote. Currently, as the warrant reads, it's solely the funding for option A. We strongly believe that town meeting should be given an opportunity to vote on A or B without being guided solely by the stringent language which in the warrant captures only A. If we can achieve that, we're prepared to note our recommendation in the warrant as all of the other entries.
Is it 2.6 and 2.7, or is it only one of those?
2.7, 2.6 we're firmly supportive of.
Okay, so it's only 2.7, okay.
If we can't reach some understanding as to the language of the warrant, and I understood town council was working on that, if we can't reach some understanding that affords town meeting with a full opportunity to vote on A or B, then we're prepared to say in our little recommendation slot on the warrant, please see our statement of position. And then in our statement of position, we're going to say, among other things, that our preference was for B, but we don't want to hold up the project if that preference falls. But the primary theme is you, the town meeting, should have the ultimate voice as to options. So if it's not worded to accommodate that basic theme, then we won't make a recommendation other than a reference to our statement of position.
That's fair.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think we have more dialogue. We can get to that one. 'Cause I'm-
Yeah.
When we get
Yeah, I know
there.
you probably come back up because I probably have some questions for you, but
Thank you, David.
Thank you,
thank
David.
you.
Okay, so, I'll skip 1-1, right?
Can I just ask a couple
Yeah,
of
of
preliminary
course.
questions? Just, have we got in touch with the National Honor Society?
We have reached out to them. They're trying to determine if they can provide it. So it says that, or it currently says that there is a placeholder in the front of our warrant. It hasn't been published, so we aren't telling anybody yet. But if we can have the National Honor Society provide some babysitting, childcare services, they will. But they're trying to determine that for us right now. So
Okay.
we have reached out to the high school. They're trying to determine that for us right now.
Okay, perfect. And then we're doing the breakfast, and who was,
Yes.
with same, the Essex?
I'm trying to do the same with the Essex Aggie folks. Michelle Lee's reaching out, Michelle Lee Carroll in my office is reaching out to talk to them. I thought it was well-received last time. It was a little bit less expensive, but more importantly, it was a great, it was a great
right.
way to showcase the work those kids can do. The one hiccup we might have is that I believe the Essex Aggie has their annual open house event that day. And so we need to see if they have the bandwidth to prepare their food that day and drop
Yeah.
it off before their own open house.
All right.
So hopefully they can.
Great.
If it's people like, we could put the air conditioner on, but that's up to you. I don't know if it's. No? Okay.
Sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
Try that. No problem. Thank you for that. Let's see, so
2-1.
2-1, prior year bills. To see if the town will vote to raise an appropriate transfer from available funds or borrow pursuant to any applicable statute a sum of money to pay any unpaid bills incurred in prior years or take any action thereon or relative thereto. The expected request is $6,093.26. Any questions or
For it.
concerns about that?
May I make a motion?
Sure.
Is this, okay.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we vote on the article as written.
How do you would
You
like
can
to
say
vote?
in favor.
I'm sorry?
How would you like to
Vote
vote?
in
Oh,
favor.
I'm sorry. That would be- Vote in favor.
Favor of? All right, excellent.
Of the
Second to that?
Second.
All right, Bill. Any further discussion?
Just a comment on the comment. Do we need to write anything like that, or I would assume the moderator's gonna let people
I
know?
think the town council wanted to make sure we were noted about it, and we will make sure the town moderator notes it. He'll note it in his remarks when he introduces the issue.
Yeah, just for the folks in the audience at home, this vote would require a 9/10 vote, so that's what I'm kind of.
So that probably will not be on the consent agenda.
Only if you think that you'll get a 9/10 vote on all the items.
Wow, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
All right, so we've got a motion and a second.
Yep. So all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, excellent. All right, 2-2, reduce education appropriation to see if the town will vote to amend the vote taken under Article 2-4 of the April 6, 2019 annual town meeting warrant by reducing the amount to be raised and appropriated for the Hamilton-Wenham Regional School District annual operating budget by $160,125 or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
I move that we approve Article 2-2.
Second.
Any further discussion on that?
I just have a question. Where will this money be returned to? Will it go?
It won't be
Tax rate.
returned, it just won't be
taken
raised.
out.
It just won't be,
Tax rate
it
will
just won't be used to raise taxes.
So here's
Okay,
the reduction of
okay.
the tax rate.
Okay,
so-
yep. thank
We don't know
you.
what that is yet.
Yeah, just for everybody, this is the amount of money that would have been for the OPEB trust fund for the schools that won and voted down, so it didn't happen, so this is our share of it.
Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. And would this be a consent agenda consideration?
I would think so, because there's not much debate on this.
Okay.
There's not much option we have.
Right.
All right.
It's a procedural thing.
Okay. Article 2-3, budget adjustments. To see if the town will vote to amend the vote taken under Article 2-4 of the 2019 annual town meeting warrant for the purpose of adjusting line items in the fiscal year 2020 budget as set forth in Appendix. We need, and further to reduce the amount to raised and appropriated by $30,067.20, or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
Real quick, if somebody want to make a motion so we can invite Marissa.
Somebody wanted to make a motion on this
I
one?
make a motion that we approve Article 2-3.
Second.
Second, thanks, Bill.
I'd like to offer Ms. Batista to come up and speak to this. I think Marissa already gave me an appendix. I just don't believe we've named it. I think it'll probably be Appendix A.
And then there's a discrepancy between the funds. It's 30,067.20,
Oh.
and then it says 30,037.20. So just kind of a little housekeeping there.
Yep.
I think they're different.
Are they different items, or are they?
They're different
different
items.
items.
Yeah, that's one of the
That's
things that makes it,
Actually,
yeah,
my
pretty close.
notes are still as part of the article. That language should have been changed. That
Oh,
was,
How do you
I
want to
just-
change it?
I'm
How
sorry.
did you want to change it?
Well, I had a note there from the FinCom meeting that was part of my notes to the town council,
Okay.
so that we could have two separate items, item A and item B, so that it wouldn't be confusing.
So you want Article 2-3 and then create a new article?
No,
No.
just to have two separate items within
Okay.
Article 2-3.
We're gonna vote once, but it
Item
just shows
A
it broken
and item
out in
B. So
description.
Item A would be
Gotcha.
budget adjustments, and item B would be the reduction of the police budget.
Okay.
So the budget adjustments is just transferring money from the salary reserve to satisfy union contracts that were negotiated. And item B is a reduction in the amount that needed to be raised for the budget due to somebody choosing not to retire when they had said they would retire. So they
Gotcha.
changed their mind, that's great. We're happy to have them stick around a little longer, but we don't have to do a retirement payout now, so.
Gotcha.
Did I get that right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I had prepared a draft Appendix A for the budget adjustments. As Joe just mentioned, most of these transfers, I mean, we're not really asking for any appropriation of funds. All we're trying to do is just housekeeping. So at the annual town meeting, we had budgeted or appropriated for a salary reserve. At the time, we didn't know what the settlement of the contracts were going to be. So we had a salary reserve put aside, and right now we actually have to move the funds from the salary reserve account into the individual departments. So pretty much every department, we have the admin contract that's settled, we have the fire contract that's settled, and the police as well. So if you'd like to pass this along, I didn't make copies, but that was one suggestion, so you could actually see each individual account where it's going to, and the amounts. As part of that budget adjustment, there's also a grade reclassification. It's for $2,990. And that would be for an employee that actually has been with the town for 17 years. We're trying to rewrite the job description and actually provide that person with a little more responsibility and grow within, the town. And then the second item, which is a reduction of the police department's budget of $30,067.20. This was an estimate that was done at the time of the budget for a calculation of a retirement payout. So when someone retires, their vacation accruals or they're sick, they get a portion of that. So we estimated based on what their balances were at the time and what the estimated date of retirement was going to be, we estimated that the town would have to pay $30,000 to the specific employee. So this employee has decided to no longer retire in fiscal year 20, which means we will not need to pay out this $30,000. Most likely, you'll see this amount
Next
for
year.
fiscal year 21, but we wanted to make sure that we were transparent and we were showing, we return the funds. We might ask for it in 21 if the employee announces retirement for 21. But as of right now, we're being told that that person will no longer retire in fiscal year 20, so we will not need those funds.
Okay.
So I apologize for the mistake in the language. I will say that I did not understand what I was supposed to do with redrafting the language there, so I apologize. That's not Marissa or Tom's fault, that's mine, and we'll fix the language according to what Marissa wants. But with that recommendation, or explanation rather, I hope that you'll still look favorably on Marissa's request. It's pretty much a bookkeeping
Yeah,
item.
it's
Yeah, I
just a
think,
tra-
I think
transfer.
we're all favorable, and I think procedural-wise, I don't like voting on the warrant that's not written correctly, so I say we rewrite it and then we vote on it, but I don't think we have an issue with it. I just don't want to go on record to vote on something that needs to be rewritten.
I'm with you.
But we don't want to have to wait till your next meeting to approve the actual language, so,
Well, we don't have the actual language.
right. So
So
we have to figure
we
out.
We have.
Well, we could have an
Can
extra
I-
meeting.
You could?
We happen to have counsel here.
Yes, we have.
Yes, we do.
Can we have counsel
Write
read the
something real
language right
quick.
now before the end of the meeting? Is that a possibility?
Can
I
you
mean,
work with-
that way it gets
Yep.
done,
Yeah.
Bill's
Yeah.
satisfied, and I don't think it's that much heavy lifting,
No.
so.
Tom, you want to huddle with Marissa and figure that out, and then we'll
Good.
add.
Yeah, thank you,
sir.
Tom.
I appreciate it.
Article-
He's here, might as well, right?
Yeah, figure.
You had suggested some language for this article at the last FinCom meeting, so we can probably put something together.
All right. Thank you very much, Marissa.
Thank you.
Tim?
You
Thanks,
want to come
Marissa.
grab that?
All right, so we'll kind of put a hold on that one for now.
All right, so hold on. Okay. All right, excellent. 2-4, water improvements. To see if the town will vote to authorize the use of $1.6 million from the previously approved borrowing of $5 million under Article 2015/4, 2-14 of the April 11th, 2015 annual town meeting to pay for the cost of improvements to the town's water distribution system, including all incidental and related costs, and raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds the sum of $40,000 for debt service costs associated with this next phase of water distribution system replacement project, or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
Second.
So moved.
I recommend that we approve this Article 2-4.
I'll second that.
Motion seconded by Sean, okay. Further discussion?
I'm just curious, how many more times do we have to vote on this one?
I know, I know.
This will be the end of it, so
is the last one?
Tim's here to answer your question. Tim's here to speak to it a little bit.
I just wanted to clarify, reading the language, the last sentence, I'd like to strike that last sentence, because this isn't the last phase. I just want to clarify that it's not the last phase of water, it's the last portion of that 10 million.
Right.
Yeah, we can strike that.
So,
Okay.
I just want to
Okay with
clarify
that.
that.
That's what's curious
We
about
do
that.
have still work cut out for us, so
Right.
Thought.
It's never final,
it's never
right?
fine.
You're always,
No.
always improving.
And are you, is this itself to go out to bid, correct? Once you appropriate the money, then you go to, it's not the same contractor as last time?
Nope. The plan is to design it over the winter
Yep.
and bid it in the winter, start in the spring. So, spring, summer project next year. Hopefully, I'd like to get the Woodbury area, it's Route 22, so I'd like to get that done, obviously, preferably maybe in the summer when school's out, so.
Okay.
I have a question related to what's actually going to be happening. Are you just replacing water piping and paving all the roads
Yes.
all at once? You won't be changing or widening or straightening or,
There's no roadway reconstruction.
Okay, that's what I guess
We
that's
just
what-
follow with a paving of
Yeah.
the road that we've
out.
damaged and dug up, yeah.
yeah, okay, good.
And Tim, you don't have the exact names of the streets yet?
Yeah, we do. Woodbury, Forest Street, Village Lane, Beach Street, and there about 8,100 feet of pipe, and mostly 8-inch pipe. And then we are replacing, there's a series of very old hydrants in town. There's 10 hydrants that are on the high priority list. Those are areas, there's several along Bay Road, actually. We're bidding those out as well, just because of the series of activities as well as the high-traveled road. We'd
Right.
like the contractor to come in there and get it wrapped up pretty quick.
Right, that sounds like a good plan.
Excellent, okay.
Can I ask Mr. Olson to amend his motion to add in the striking of the last sentence?
Make a
What sense are you
motion.
asking to strike? 'Cause I'm
I
looking
make,
at,
it's on the next
It's
page.
on page 4.
I make a motion to vote favorably on Article 2-4 with the one change in the summary to strike the last line of the summary. This represents the final phase of this project, and strike that.
Second.
the summary is, that's good to strike, but it's not actually part of the article itself.
Yeah.
It's
No, I just
This
wanted
is
to
summary.
take, I
We
just
don't
want
want
to
anyone to
clarify
Yeah,
that.
think
absolutely.
this is the end.
Perfect, okay. All right, any further discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right,
And the consent agenda, possibly.
think so, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Article 2-5, Community Preservation Habitat for Humanity. To see if the town will vote pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44B, to appropriate the amount of $200,000 from the Community Preservation Fund Community Housing Reserve Account as a grant to the Affordable Housing Trust for the purposes of purchasing certain parcels located at Asbury Street for development as affordable homes for income-qualified borrowers, including all incidental and related expenses, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a grant agreement with the Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust, setting the terms for such grant, including a requirement that the property be conveyed by January 1st, 2022, and that the owners of any dwelling subsequently receive any of these appropriated monies from the trust grant to the town and affordable housing restriction in said dwellings. And further, that such requirement be included in any grant agreement involving this property, and further, to authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept such restrictions or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
Jay Butler from the Community Preservation Committee is available to answer any of your questions.
Jay Butler, Chair of the Community Preservation Committee. Just a couple of comments. There's a comment in pink in the comment here. I'd like to support that comment. That is exactly what we'd like, and support the number of correction. And lastly, the CPC voted 5-0 to support this, if you want to add that at the bottom, that space. Other than that, it looks great.
The pink comment is from our town council. It says, if the property is not conveyed by January 1st, 2022, it is the intent that the funds would be returned to the CPC. If so, we may want to add the following after accept, and what he would like to add. Any funds from this appropriation remaining unspent after January 1st, 2022 will be returned to the Community Preservation Fund only after a vote by the Community Preservation Committee determining that it is unlikely the remaining appropriated funds will need to be spent to this effect. So everything in the quotes in the pink would be added to this article.
I move that we,
We can make a motion first, and we can discuss.
I move that we vote in favor for Article 2-5 with the insertion of the comment that Joe just mentioned.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
I have a comment. I'm not sure this is the appropriate place for it, but I will say it anyhow. I would like to see the town grant an affordable housing restriction in perpetuity. Can that be part of the article, or I don't know. Tom, do you? Because
there is language in the article right now that says that.
See if you come up to the mic.
Yeah, Tom, just come up to the mic, sorry.
Sorry, thank you. Tom McEnany from KP Law. There is language in the article right now that says specifically that that includes a requirement with the grant that the property, in addition to being conveyed by January 1st, 2022, that any owners of the subsequent dwellings receiving any of the appropriated monies from the trust would grant to the town an affordable housing restriction.
okay, subsequently
Yes.
is the term. Okay,
That's right.
perfect.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I had another question. I'm 100% in favor of this. The last meeting I was at, one of the difficulties was carving the cell phone tower property out, because the owners wanted to maintain the cell phone property and didn't have frontage. So have we been able to solve how to carve that cell phone property out of this parcel so that we can have two?
So this article just gives the
I know, but I-
CPC and the
but-
affordable housing the right
I
to,
can
but
talk
they
to
haven't
that.
settled the contracts and gone through.
Yeah, I
the
just want to go
process.
through all this if we haven't figured out a way to make it happen, but.
There was at the Affordable Housing Trust, the person who oversees that project brought a schematic, and there was a
A way to
road.
do that.
So there was frontage.
Okay, great. Okay.
Right, so it was a very, it was a
They figured out a way to
really-
do it.
Yes, it was a
Okay.
very nice
Okay,
presentation.
good. I was worried they wouldn't be able to figure it out. I'm glad they did.
Yeah, well, at this point, it's
At this
only
point, there's
so
a
far, so
solution
good.
on the
It's at
table.
least a proposal
Yes.
for a
Correct.
solution that.
Correct.
And, while I'm here, we did actually agree on some language for Article 2-3.
We'll vote on this first, and then we can go back to that.
Thank you.
All right, so, any further discussion on 2-5?
Nope.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, excellent. So do we want to go back to 2-3 while we have Tom here?
Let's do it.
Okay, thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Sure.
members of the board. So the language that we agreed upon is as follows: to see if the town will vote to amend the vote taken under Article 2-4 of the 2019 annual town meeting warrant for the purposes of A, adjusting line items in the FY 2020 budget as set forth in appendix, whatever that appendix number is going to be, A.
Tom, if I can just interrupt for a second, shouldn't it be Article 2-3?
That's what I was getting at.
Yes.
I think you said 2-4, that's what it says in
No,
there.
it's.
There's amending the 2000.
Amending the two.
annual
Oh,
town
the
meeting article.
previous
Yeah,
one, all right.
this is
Now I see the
Article
confusion.
2-3 in this, but the
2-4
article that we're
in the
amending is
other. Okay.
2-4 from the annual.
Apologize for the confusion.
No problem. And B, to reduce the police budget by 30,067.20, and the amount to be raised and appropriated by 30,067.20, or take any action thereon or relative thereto. So that addresses the issue that the Finance Committee had with respect to a desire to split out the two things to make it a little more,
Understand.
less confusing
Yes.
perhaps,
Yeah.
and
Clearer.
more
Little clearer.
streamlined.
Make a motion that we approve the language as read by our town council.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thank you for taking care of that now.
Sure, thank you.
Consent agenda, we think?
Yeah.
Tom, you'll send that to me, or just make the,
Okay. All right, we are on to now 2-6, Community Preservation, Town Hall Building Project. To see if the town will vote pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44B, to appropriate $250,000 from the Community Preservation Fund balance for the restoration, rehabilitation, and preservation of the historic town hall located at 577 Bay Road, including but not limited to the design and project management costs related thereto, provided that the preparation of bid and construction documents and that the bidding process commences prior to July 1st, 2012, or take any action thereon or relative thereto. Original CPC vote was different than article above. CPC voted to fund the Community Preservation Fund balance. Spoke to Dora and he has gone.
this should be taken out. This is a note to us, right?
Yeah.
Strike
She's like,
everything
stop
that is-
reading.
Stop reading the teleprompter.
Strike everything that said the original CPC vote.
Right, okay.
And then also the typo on the date, it should be 2021 instead of 2012.
Yes.
Yeah, good catch.
Unless we're going back in time. And then also there's another comment there, and I'm sure
Yeah.
Mr. Butler is going to come up and speak to that, and I'm sure the CPC would like similar language as in the last article with the sunset.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. The comment is put the sunset comment at the end to show that the money would revert back to the CPC if it weren't spent by July 1st, 2021.
So, Tom, would that same exact language be appropriate there?
Yes, it would.
Okay.
So I'll just add that same language into this article as well.
Okay.
And Jay, is that money's coming from the preservation fund balance? As it
It'd be
says
the
there.
unreserved funds.
Yes, the previous version actually had $40,000 coming from the historical, and then I had spoken to Dora, and the vote CPC had taken was to take the 250 out of the fund balance.
The unreserved fund balance, yeah.
So the total coming out of the unreserved fund
Yeah.
balance. There's a discussion before, just for the folks home, because Marissa wasn't standing up, was to take 40,000 out of the historical balance, right? And now it's all coming out of the
Unreserved balance.
unreserved.
yeah.
Okay.
And lastly, the CPC voted 4-1 for this article.
And the Finance Advisory Committee voted 5-0, so.
So I make a motion that we vote favorably on Article 2-6 with the following modifications. Number 1, change the date to 2021. Add the sunset clause to July, that's what it is, right? To July 1st, 2021, and then remove the sentence starting with original and ending with balance, and the sentence starting with spoke and ending with confirm.
Second.
Great. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, Article 2-7, Town Hall Building Project. To see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer to borrow a sum of money in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other enabling authority for the purpose of funding the design and construction of the renovations and improvements to the town hall located at 577 Bay Road, including all incidental or related costs, and further to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for and accept any federal, state, and/or other grants or loans available for the project, and to enter into any and all agreements related thereto, and that any premium received upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any such premiums applied to the payments of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with Chapter 44, Section 20 of the General Laws, thereby reducing the amount of authorized to borrowed to pay such costs by like amount, or take any action thereon or relative thereto. Expected request is $357,767.
I would like to see if we could add the language for option A and B. And this is this is where it would be found, because the townspeople have to have the option so that they can decide what they want to do. It's not about us, it's about us. So I would like to find a way we could do that, maybe with the town council, be able to help us with that? Like now? No?
So,
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. The problem is that we already discussed and voted on it.
That's fine.
Right.
We can, yeah, that's fine. But this,
I mean, they've already gone in a pathway down the road, so now
it
we're
doesn't
going
matter what
backwards.
BOS or
Well, it does matter. I mean,
or
I
it's the
appreciate your opinion.
people.
Does it matter?
No, this isn't an
Yeah.
opinion. This is the way our town works.
No,
The
we
people
vote.
at town meeting get to say, they get to vote. We can make recommendations, we can make observations, we can feel the way we feel, but ultimately, it's the people of this town who will have the say. They are the legislator. They're the legislature for this town.
I think we're going to agree.
foreign to you.
I think we're going to agree to disagree, because there's a lot of things
Well-
you vote here for that you don't go and get the town's opinion on it. You vote because they voted you in, they voted us in
No,
debate
it's
and
not,
have a
that's
vote.
not the way it works here.
That's what you do it every week. You vote on things that.
For certain things, yes, the
Well,
bottom
how do you
line comes.
decide
No,
what
listen
things
to
go in
me.
front?
Well,
For
hang
certain
on.
things, the Board of Selectmen does have the last word.
Right.
But when we're legislating at town meeting, we don't get the last word. The people get the last word. That's how it works in this town. We're a direct democracy.
Yeah, but
We
I-
don't get to
I
say,
understand what you're saying, but other
no.
boards and we have approved option A.
That's
If-
okay. We
that is
we
totally
gave
fine.
our,
But listen,
our
hear me out.
recommendation.
Darcy, look at your
Yeah.
Hear me out. If the town wants option B, and we come forward with option A, they have every right to sit at town meeting and say, you know what?
They can
No.
go either way. They can go either way. They
But
could
you're
go
not
no way.
understanding
They
what I'm
could
saying.
say, they could say we
They can vote
don't.
down the option we're bringing forward to
They
them.
could vote down both of them and go with nothing. It's up to them.
Right.
They are in the driver's seat, not the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Darcy, the only comment I would make about that is it's not as simple, do we save the stairs or we do
No,
not
it's
save the
not.
stairs? And so, if you would like that piece of information to be in here as a potential vote, we would need to have an in-depth discussion about that so that everybody understands both sides
Exactly, and it occurs
clearly.
on the town floor. That's how that works.
I'm just pointing out the fact that there will be a necessity for protracted discussion.
Exactly. That's how it works in a small-town open meeting.
Can I ask?
Yeah, Joe, yeah.
I'd like to refer to the town council. Tom, could you please explain to us what the proper procedure for delivering a question to a town meeting and under Mass state law is?
Sure. Thank you. So the way this article is drafted, it's a bond authorization. Ultimately, bond counsel and the town's financial advisor weighs in on with respect to how such an article is worded. So the language that's included here is a typical bond authorization. Generally speaking, town meeting is is a legislative body, and they appropriate funds. Town meeting wouldn't necessarily choose a particular project per se. However, if project A cost X and project B cost Y, then town meeting would appropriate either X or Y funding, and ultimately, I think that conveys certainly the sense of what the town meeting thinks should be the direction of the project, but ultimately it still lies in the hands with the executive authorities of the town with respect to which way to go. But typically, on a bond authorization, the language is relatively straightforward. It's fairly consistent from town to town.
What's the language in here
project.
that limits the option from A or B or whatever?
The expected request line.
The request. So right now it says to see if the town will vote to authorize the treasurer to borrow a sum of
So
money.
it's inferred that 357 is,
Would be,
A.
so
That's
357
only
would
one
only be, yeah,
Right.
so by having expected request is $357,767, together with the 250 that would be
Right.
ostensibly approved in the earlier motion.
Right.
That would limit us to $607,000, which
Right.
would be the amount of money that would be needed to continue the development of option A.
It'll
If
be
you
a different
wanted-
sum.
If you wanted, we have already talked with the Town Hall Building Committee and CPC and everybody else involved as far as making sure the town meeting knows the process that we went through, what the two options were, what the expense and cost of both options were. So the item really comes down to, do you want to keep in the line that says expected request is 357,767, or do you want to, I guess there are a couple of options. You could strike that and present both options to town meeting, and then let somebody make a motion for
yeah.
A
yeah.
or
I mean,
B.
I'm not against what Darcy's
Or you could-
suggesting. I just think it wasn't the process we set up. So this long
right,
process that
I
we've done, we're going to short cycle it in 3 weeks and try and get the town to vote on something that they know nothing about. Because if they haven't gone to the meetings and they haven't read the stuff, they're gonna just go on what one person tells them to do, and it's going to sway like the wind. And so it's just too bad that we tried to hard to build consensus in this town and to educate the town, and now we're going to jam something that we thought was right, so to completely change the process midstream, which is what I have a problem with. So if that was the process to vote what the opinion was, then we should have set it up 6 months ago. So it's just too bad that's the direction we're going to take on this thing. And I don't know, I mean, the
Well-
town building committee can make it, I mean, they were the ones spending the time on this thing, so if they feel like in the next 3 weeks they can.
So I think
For the
as
educate-
far as building consensus, I think we've gone a long way towards building a lot of consensus. Even the Finance and Advisory Committee, which prefers a different option than the Board of Selectmen voted for, is in favor of the project, and they want to be sure to let the public know that they're in favor of doing a project here. They just want to be able to explain why they felt in favor of option B. And, to me, the most important thing is that we go through this in a way that once we get a vote at town meeting, we're all on the same page,
Right.
and that's the project we're moving forward with.
And that's when we execute, is what town meeting tells us to do.
What I'd like really doesn't matter.
No.
It's up to
I mean,
you.
I'm not
Board of
against
Selectmen
what
to tell me how
Darcy's
you want this
suggesting, I just
article.
don't know we have enough, but I'd like to have enough time to change it, the approval process, because we never talked about doing that till tonight.
Well, but at the same time, I mean, even if we weren't having this conversation,
Right.
somebody could stand up at town
Yes.
meeting and vote to amend the vote.
Right.
But
Right.
I'd like to amend the article to reflect X thousands of dollars so that we can do a different option.
Yes.
And if that got passed, that's what you'd be left with. So what we're saying is that we'll make sure we provide enough information at town meeting that the vote has all the necessary information there. I've already spoken to the moderator about granting us enough time to make sure that we share all that information.
Should that be part of our introduction then to this, that we did consider two options? I mean, is that reasonable?
There are two options on the table.
Well, currently, technically, right now, there's one option on the
Right.
table, but
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. There were two options.
There were many options.
that
We
we're
got
gonna
down-
share
There were many
information
options, we
with
get down to two, and then, vote on the two.
Just
so.
sort of talk about what the reasoning was, and then if anybody wanted to get up and talk about something else, I mean, I'm all for that as well.
There are actually three options. It would be A, B, or neither. That's how that works.
That's true.
Well, I think they'll know that.
Yeah. So that's the process
I know
that we have here.
Mike, are you doing a presentation? Are you doing a presentation at town meeting, though? Like an update on the project? And okay, I figured as much, just, okay.
Jay?
Just in case you want to know, there was a conversation today, or not a conversation, there was a 5-hour meeting today with the consultants, the engineers, architects, and two different cost estimators, the architect's cost estimator and an independent cost estimator that came in. Mike and Jay and Jack could provide you with a brief update on that if you'd like. The good news is our original numbers are pretty close to where they came in after going through the project with a fine-tooth comb, yeah, easy for me to say, today. And the good news is that I think we all have a lot of confidence that the numbers for either option are pretty much what we expect them to be. There is still a difference in the cost associated between option A and option B of about $750,000 to $800,000, based on the cost estimators reconciling everything today. Is that fair, Mike? Okay.
He's cautious.
So you can hear from Mike or them. You can help to make you decide which way you want to go. Tom, you typically see these things proposed as with a dollar amount, and then if the town meeting wants to make a change, they do. But
Yeah, it varies from town to town. Sometimes, the way this article is drafted, it just says to borrow a sum of money, which leaves it essentially up to the motion to insert what that dollar amount would be. Sometimes towns will have a specific amount that they intend to borrow, where it would say to borrow X, 300,000, 500,000, whatever the number is. If you include a specific sum of money in the article, then it would potentially limit the scope of an amendment. Ultimately, it's a question that the moderator would determine as to whether or not a motion to amend an article is within the scope of the article. I'm not familiar specifically with your moderator and what view he takes, because we haven't covered a town meeting at this point, but some towns have specific, some town moderators are very strict. They'll say that if it says $500,000 in the article, they will not allow anyone to make an amendment that exceeds that amount to borrow more than $500,000. Some moderators take a more liberal approach. If the vote was to go from 500,000 to $1 million, for example, a moderator might say, well, that's too much, but he might allow 550. It varies from moderator to moderator. You can always amend down. That's always it would always be within the scope of the article if it said $500,000 and someone made a motion to borrow $300,000, because town meeting or anybody who is a registered voter in town who was planning to attend town meeting would be on notice that the town could borrow up to $500,000 for this particular purpose. So someone may say, and it's a question really of notice, so someone may say, geez, had I known that the town might borrow $1 million instead of the $500,000 that was set forth in the warrant, I would have shown up at town meeting and voted against it.
Right.
So that's kind of the rationale behind it.
Always easier to go down.
So yes, you can always go down because that's always within the scope, and by leaving it essentially as a sum of money, it provides certainly more flexibility when you get to town meeting for purposes of making a motion with a specific dollar amount.
if we struck the words expected request is 357, 767, and just ended the article with the period before that, that would leave it open to us to be able to share all the information about both options at town meeting, and then have somebody make a motion for
One or the other.
For a specific dollar amount associated with either option A or option B, absolutely.
Yep.
Or I think you have a couple different options. One is to, if the board was in favor of this dollar amount that's expected here, you can certainly leave that in. A second option would be to put in language that says expected request is 357,767 for option A, or 1 million, whatever the number is for,
It's only $135,000 more, don't go
okay,
scaring
I
people.
thought you said 7, no, I thought I
Let's not
heard
go
you
scaring
say.
people at home.
No, I'm sorry, I thought
Thinking
I
total,
heard you say
not,
7.
The total construction price of the
or
project
X
at the end
for
would be $750,000.
Option B,
That's right.
or you can leave it blank.
So the
I would
board,
like to hear from the building committee.
okay. Jay, Mike,
I got a couple of comments, and I'll let Mike say a few words. This article is a companion article to the CPC grant. The history of this is that the town building committee came before the CPC and asked for all the money, $607,767. We looked at that, and they said, you know, give us what you think you can, and we're going to ask in a separate warrant for the remainder. So we had to reduce 150 grand out because it contained some relocation costs. Then we look at the balance, which was roughly 500 grand. We studied it, and we thought about it for a while, and then I went and looked at the original construction estimates and realized that if you just talk about the exterior of the building and preserving it, and just to bring it up to code, plumbing, electrical, ADA, fire protection, et cetera, it's a little over half the construction cost. So my comment to the committee was, gee, if they're asking for $500,000, when I look at how much money we have, I think we ought to go with maybe 200 grand. And there was a discussion, and then somebody noticed the math and said, why don't we approve 250 grand, exactly half? And we voted for 250 grand with the idea the balance would go into this other article. Now, the request that we approved that's written that way says it's for the bidding, it's for the bid documents and the construction documents.
Right.
This article, which is for those same three things, plus employee relocation, yet the article doesn't itemize those things. So the article needs to be rewritten to actually explicitly list bidding, bid documents, and construction documents. The employee relocation costs, which wouldn't be incurred if this article didn't go forward, obviously, but it needs to be in this article because they want to be able to spend that money in June, and any money allocated at this town meeting or the next town meeting doesn't become available to July 1st. So we have to make sure that this article contains the employee relocation as an item that you're funding. And lastly, under the brief summary down there, it says, this article seeks funding for portions of the town hall building project which are not eligible for CPA funds. That's not really true.
Because we're not paying all that we.
We're not paying, we could fund 500 grand and be within our rights, but we didn't. So that statement probably ought to be taken out. So I don't know how you rewrite it with all it said, but you need to make sure that it lists the four things that the money will be used for.
and currently it lists,
Three.
it lists three, so you want us to add in there that, and employee relocation costs?
Yeah,
Sense.
and
What
then,
line's it on?
So it's, after, for the purpose of funding the
Design,
design,
construction, and
improvements of the
relocation
town hall
costs.
and relocation
Okay,
costs.
yep, got that.
and then one other last thing, when the CPC grant comes up first, I'm going to say a few words about what I just told you, how we came to the number and how we voted it. Then I'm going to turn around and ask the moderator to recognize Mike Toomey, who's going to do a brief intro on the project. Then he, in turn, is going to introduce the architect, and they're going to do a 10-minute presentation and present what we've done, why we got here, and A and B costs. So all will be disclosed as part of the CPC vote. So everybody, before they even vote for this article here, they're going to know what's going on, and then the question and answers will happen likely during the vote on the CPC. So by the time we get to this grant, all of the information of what they need to know will have already been presented. So,
Tom?
So I just wanted to make sure I understood the proposal was you want to add in relocation costs?
Right.
Okay, we can do that. In my opinion, it may not be necessary because it does specifically state that it includes all incidental or related
right, yeah.
costs. So that would
Right.
be part of that, similar to
I wouldn't add it.
when you have a library project, for example, there's often storage costs and things
Yeah,
like
I
that.
mean, there's
that
always
you
incidents.
incur.
I think it's nice to kind of
But we
put
can-
it right in
that-
there.
that's
So
fine.
About the things we know.
Yeah, so I can add in, after including, what was it, employee relocation?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So employee relocation costs and all other incidental and related costs. That I think would work.
And then how can we reword that bottom? Because to Jay's point, I agree with him wholeheartedly that it's which are not eligible for CPA funds. How could we reword that so that it's not it's not saying that because there's still eligible funding. We just didn't fund it all. With
I think you
CPA.
can take it out. Take it out.
Take it right
Take
out.
it out.
So it needs
Just
to say
take out
this.
that comma, which are not eligible for CPA funds, and just leave this article seeks funding for portions of the town hall
I,
building
I would say in
project,
addition to Article 2.6.
where it says
Fund.
which are not eligible.
Yeah,
So
just say in
put it.
addition to, because it's important. I think the town knows it's what do you call it? You call it what do you say? Sister article. It's important to know that they're connected, right? You can't really. There's one help without the other, not really, right? They add together. Yeah, so you have to say in addition to.
Or you could say which were not funded with CPA funds.
Yeah, which we're not
I like
funding.
that.
Oh, which we're not, yeah. So you're only
And
changing
just
one
get
word
rid of
there.
eligible and add were after the R there.
Yeah, we're in Article 2-6.
Funded, okay. I see.
I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut.
All right, so just so we're all on the same page here, this article seeks funding for portions of the town hall building project which were not
Funded with CPA.
funded with CPA funds in Article 2-6.
In
Mm-hmm.
article.
That
Yeah.
works.
Yeah, thanks, Tom.
Perfect. So I have one question. I mean,
I'm sorry.
this
what?
then still needs to ask for a sum of money, because 2-6 has a specific fund
Specific funding.
request, 250 from the CPA. So this one is still gonna need to get.
I know, I wanted to hear
the
them speak, and I think we can
Yeah,
dialogue
yeah.
that.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, you deserve an update, so I'll let you have it. Let's see, we're in the design development phase, and those documents were issued August 20th. And they went to PM&C, which is the architect's estimator. And we also hired our own estimator, which is Fennessy Consulting. So those drawings, those documents, both went to individual estimating companies. There was also a write-up and certain criteria they had to meet. Now, we received drafts from both of them last Friday. And then we received the final documents for the DD phase estimates. Today, we sat down at 10 o'clock, and it was a beautiful 5-hour exercise. What we did, we moved over $1 million worth of scope up and down, around, and made sure these estimates were reconciled. We went through every line item. We went through contingencies. Well, actually, we're going to go back to contingencies, but we went to profit, the net profit for the contracts, general conditions, all the trades, every line item in this estimate we went through. And what we did, we have good news for you tonight. Option A, in our March conceptual estimate was $8,583,000. Our budget today was $8,548,000. So I would consider that on budget.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
On target. We were lucky to have the architect be able to produce the documents when they said they would. Estimators jumped through hoops for 2 weeks and got us an estimate. They had a bruising day today, but they did an excellent job. And we also, that's option A. What was also going on here with the architect's estimator, he looked at option B, and we got an updated pricing on on conceptual documents. Now, that estimator, do you want to comment on that? Or?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
You're doing great. I'm shaking my head in agreement. You're doing great.
So we have another exercise going on with option B. We want to make sure that we don't get too far out there without good information. So what we did was, we had the architect's estimator look at B based on the conceptual documents. Now that we've gone through this whole evolution of option A. They were able to take some of that information now and blend it into the option B estimate to come up with a new budget. So it's a combination of conceptual and design development information from today's meeting. And that number, that was a little convoluted, but that number is, let me see now, that's $830,000. I'm sorry. It is $9,377,000. The delta between A and B is about $830,000. Now, what we have to do is we have to go back and look at design contingency, because we're combining information from conceptual and DD. So we really need to go back and look at that, but it shouldn't vary any more than 1% or 2%. So the original information that we gave you and that you based your decision on is relatively
Pretty
accurate.
close, yeah.
And so that will support your decision. I hope that meets your needs there. Let's see. So we will have updated option B. How that enters into the big picture in town meeting, I'm not sure. But that's what we have to update you with tonight.
That's good. We'll kind of all signs point that everyone's done their job very well, and that those original estimates are pretty close to the kind of real-world estimates that we got there. That's good.
They stood up under a lot of scrutiny today. There were
There were a
Jay,
million people here today.
Jack, myself, and both estimators. I mean, they don't look at each other's work until we sit down. So it was a good exercise. We learned a lot. We actually went through a lot of the design issues, everything from HVAC to sprinkler and millwork. A lot of things got addressed. So nothing's finalized, but it's a good way of vetting the work that the architect's done and what the estimators are looking at.
What was the delta between the two estimates?
Between A and B?
Before they, no, between the two estimators before they saw each other's estimate.
It was probably, let's see. Was it? Yeah.
230,000.
And you met in the middle, or you went to one versus the other?
Like I said, we moved about $1 million worth
Okay.
of scope. There were a lot of things
That's
that
pretty
went
close.
up and down.
230, that's less than 5%, it's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
There was a lot of, if I said it was just a matter of moving that $230,000
I understand.
around.
It's
it'd
a
be
lot more
easy.
than that.
No, but they were close, they weren't.
Yes.
Yes, they weren't.
One wasn't way over the other one. and-
I've seen estimates be $2 million apart, so it was good to see
good.
6 figures, not 7, so that's good.
They both did a tremendous job, and there weren't a lot of lump sums. That's what I did in business, was evaluate estimates and budgets. And quite often, you get an estimator that will just lump sum or square foot. They itemized this estimate very well, both of them. So they were prepared. And I happen to know both estimators, so they knew they were going to be under some scrutiny today, so that was good. I think the results were good from the exercise. So.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, excellent work, Mike. too.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Mike.
Well,
Excellent
we got a
work.
good crew, so.
I think the Town Hall Building Committee, the CPC, everybody that's been involved so far should be commended. They put in a tremendous amount of work, not just the 5 hours today, but this is going back for the entire year I've been here. Countless meetings. Patrick Reffett is keeping a running log of actually how many meetings and hours these guys have spent. And the fact that they were able to, kind of sit around a table for 5 hours and prove that their initial estimates were pretty spot on was very heartening to me. It means that we weren't, shooting blindly into the night. We had a good group of people on the project from the beginning. They've held the line on cost and making sure that the total construction cost number is something that can be understood by the town in this kind of
Did
project.
you guys ever officially vote on your preference on A or B?
Don't start.
We,
Well, I want them to be, their opinion be weighed, it's important.
our task was to try and find as many different options as we possibly
Right,
could.
yeah, you did. Yeah.
And present them to the Board of Selectmen for a decision. We originally recommended B, and there are a lot of reasons to look at that. There are some efficiencies there. The stairs is only one little component of it, whether they stay or go. And I guess for many reasons, A was then selected by you people, and we then voted, I think the next night or within a night or two, to support your decision. and to move forward with A, knowing that, we were dealing still with conceptual information, but we've kept B in the background because we want to be prepared if this does take a turn. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
So one of the things once you folks make a decision about how you want this to be worded in the warrant, they'll make a presentation at town hall, at town meeting to explain what the two options are, what the cost differences are, what the functional differences of the two options are, and it will also include what the difference in the ask at October 19th is. So one of the things that will be different is they have taken option A through development design to this point. They haven't done that with option B. So in order to recapture that ground, it will probably extend the project between 3 to 6 months and cost an additional $135,000 over what was initially discussed as an ask at this meeting. So that's not the end of the world. That doesn't mean you shouldn't go forward with that. If the town is wanting to go in that direction, we absolutely should. But we just want to make sure everybody understands what the differences are, and that includes redevelopment of that. So.
So that would be on top of the delta of the 130,000?
No, it would be part of the whole.
230.
It would be, the difference between option A and B and the cost estimates right now is about $830,000. That's the final cost, all in, everything done, all the plans, all the bidding, relocation costs and everything else. Right now, and as it stands in the warrant right now, you're asking for a total of $607,767 between the two articles. If town meeting were inclined to go with option B or recommend option B, that would need to be $135,000 more, because you wouldn't be able to
You
get.
need those funds now. Out of the out of the 830,000, you need
Right.
those funds now to continue the project through
Right.
July or June or whatever.
So just want to be clear about that. And then that would mean that the architects would have to take the first several months to develop option B to the same level, and then go through the process of developing construction documents and going out to bid, so.
For the town meeting, Jay prepared a white paper, a description of start to finish here. And I think, what was it, 6 pages, Jay?
It started at 14.
I'll read the whole thing at town meeting if you like, but we'd probably choose not to. But he did condense it down, and it's down now to 2 pages. I don't know if it really does the whole process justice, but we're trying to tailor this to be able to get up at town meeting and explain both options, if that's the direction we're going. And we will be prepared to do that. We'll keep it brief. We won't go through any more than 2 pages.
And you're prepared to do it without so you're going to present, you would be prepared to present both options without an opinion of which one you prefer? Just this is one, this is the other? Or you're presenting it with an opinion?
We're trying to be impartial.
Impartial, that's my question. Yeah, impartial, that's what I'm looking for. Okay.
So
The language should
if
be
we need
impartial.
to be able to do some type of comparison or explain in detail what each option entails, we can do that.
Okay.
Thank you. David?
Dave looks like he wants to talk.
Yes. And we want to hear them.
I don't want to be an advocate for A or B at this juncture. You know what FinCom's position is. But I want to be an advocate for democracy.
Yes.
This is an inherently complex topic of significant import, not just financially. As a matter of fact, stating the millions of dollars involved could be viewed as a bit misleading, because the cost of borrowing over 30 years diminishes the initial significance of 8 million, 9 million, et cetera, to a more, one might say, manageable difference. I'm apprehensive that unless it is clearly stated, the town meeting has the opportunity to vote on either A, B, or nothing, or something, if there's an amendment in between. It's going to become clouded. It's going to become messy. They'll see a FinCom preference for B. I don't know if the Historic Commission is going to make a statement or not.
I'm sure they'll get, I haven't spoken to them, but I'm sure they'll get up and speak, so.
So as Bill was saying, this has been vetted for months and months, and now we expect town meeting, in the essence of democratic context, to make a decision. It's going to be very awkward. So the clearer the motion, the clearer the vote, the better. So I would urge you to consider, along with town council's assistance, a motion or deleting the expected amount, and then a motion that incorporates and communicates the ability of town meeting to choose. So, thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Can I just offer one other thing? Beyond the special town meeting vote, one of the things that I'd like us all to remember, if we go to special town meeting, the vote is what it is, the town meeting approves one of the options, we then have to go forward from there to, finish the work between now and annual, and then next annual town meeting, we'll have a much bigger request in front of annual town meeting, but doesn't even stop there, because if this project ultimately gets approved, it's gonna have to be a ballot question to fund it. And, to David's point, to your point, to everybody's point, I'd like us to make sure that we're kind of moving in a way that gets clarity to the project, so that when we come and have to develop a ballot question to be approved by the voters, that there's at least the sense that the town got to that point together, as opposed to there being a huge amount of division in the town about it. So, I think that's one of the things we can do here at this stage here now to kind of set up that message to the voters.
Jack, get some words of wisdom for us?
Jack Lawrence, 105 Rock Maple. The worst possible thing, I think, as far as the committee is concerned, is to come away from town meeting and not have a final decision. And I don't think I've heard quite yet where that actual decision would be made, that it's got to be a very finite point, properly supported by the necessary appendices. And I'd like to just show in my biannual appeal that whatever is sent out by way of the warrant includes the appendices, because the warrant's worthless without it. So I think, one, we want to get as many people in there as possible to feel that they're not disenfranchised by this whole thing, and two, to make sure we do get the final decision, because that would be an absolute disaster for us to come away without our marching orders. So
Simplify.
maybe another warrant, I don't know, another article or something like that, where there's a specific
Article.
I mean, yeah.
I'm not, that's for town council and lots smarter people than I to work out, but.
You can't vote A or B. You have to vote one or the other. The way a motion is, either aye or nay. So you have to.
You'd say option A, aye or nay, and then you say option B, aye, and then you'd count it up and you'd see who.
Right, well, we can't
No,
add
you
another
can't.
article.
Yeah,
We've closed the warrant.
Yeah.
Right.
10 new articles you did. You voted to not include any new article. Was only language we were going to deal with inside
Yeah.
the articles.
So I mean, I don't know if it's a substantial change in language.
Yeah, just someone had discussion 6 months ago when
Yeah.
we had the vote. It would have been a different scenario. And now, if we don't make a decision now, we're going to be 6 months behind. So it's just the process is
The process.
we were asked to make a decision, and we did. And now we're being told a decision isn't the final decision. So I'm a little.
It lessens.
I'd rather vote on. We made a recommendation. We made a strong recommendation. It was 4-1. I'd rather have the town vote on it, and they can make it. The town can make a motion on the floor if they want to change it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can amend the motion as much as Darcy would like to kind of fit which option plus the monies and stuff like that, and I think it's going to be confusing nonetheless, I guess, if we're really
Still going
putting
to be
both options out there.
4-1, and I don't know, what did FinCom vote on this article? 05 or 1-4? Or?
No, 5. It doesn't say.
At the time, FinCom had 4
Members?
members.
So
So it was unanimous in that context.
Okay.
As to B, and also unanimous in the subsequent context as to, absent a clear warrant or motion that allows people to choose, we would say, please see FinCom's statement of position. And in our statement of position, we would indicate our preference for B. We would say, but this is an important project, we wish it to go forward. But we would also underscore the importance of a process where town meeting members get to choose the options. So we're prepared to say that, and that's going to perhaps create a bit more static. We'd like to avoid that.
So how would you, Town Council, sorry, Tom, how would you, I've never really been part of I've been to many town meetings, not many where you voting A or B. So how do you facilitate that? What's the administrative or the?
I was gonna say, I don't think we've ever had
Never had to vote A or B. So how do you? Because if you vote A in, then you never vote B. If the only way you would go to B is if A failed. So you don't vote. So anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I mean, typically, again, town meeting is a legislative body, so it approves funding. So if somebody makes a motion to appropriate to borrow $357,767, which is, I understand, would be the amount for option A, and that gets voted down, or somebody would have an option to amend it to increase it by $135,000 or whatever the amount was for the purposes of funding option B. That's typically how it would work. You wouldn't see
right. So I think
language in the article that would
it's
have
not so much choosing A or B, it's choosing the funding.
That's right.
It's a dollar amount, not
that's correct.
option A, option B.
Amend the motion. I don't know any other way procedurally to do it. I have no problem with somebody doing that, and that's probably what should happen.
Right, that's typically how it would work.
It'll be a long meeting, but it's worth it to have a debate, discussion, and get it right.
Right,
But
yeah, exactly. So I think somebody who's in favor of perhaps option A would get up and, after the presentations are made, and make a motion to
I was just going to
borrow
ask you that. So
the sum of X, the 357,000 and change figure, with the language that's included here in the warrant article. And then if somebody felt that, well, geez, I think option B is the better option, I would make a motion to amend to increase it to X, the higher figure.
So
typically would be
could I
how that
restate?
would
So
work.
we could, if we struck, the expected request is 357,767 and just had an open-ended request for borrow, we could make our presentation for both options, and then a member of the Board of Selectmen or what have you could make a motion for option A, and that would determine whether that would be after the presentations, after all the information was out there, after the cost difference was out there. You could make a motion for option A, say, based on the finances, based on whatever you want to do, we're moving that, we recommend option A.
I don't know the difference between, you might as well leave it in there, 367, that's what we voted on. And if someone's amended, they amend it from there. I think we need to be clear with what we're asking for and let somebody else change it than to leave it open-ended. It shows that we haven't sort of done our job.
Yeah, I think to Bill's point, we leave it in there because that's going to be more confusing, I think, on the numbers. So someone would have to amend it to the higher number, and then you vote down the first option, and then you vote down the second motion, right? So you have the two motions at the same time almost.
Did you want to add, where it says expected request is 357,767, to add to fund option A afterwards, to make it more clear that that's
Fine.
what the board supports?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
What is the vote for this?
This would be a two-thirds vote of town meeting to approve a borrowing.
Wow.
Because you're bonding, right? So
That's correct.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Bill that I think we're asking for, the town is going to be investing a boatload of money in this, and I think the more clarity and the more decisiveness that we can go in with, the more confidence we can conjure from the voters.
right.
I
agree.
just,
Okay.
not that I don't disagree with your statements, Darcy. I agree 100%. But also looking at the fact that we're so close to the deadline, I just see just a really, really protracted town meeting where people will not have had a chance ahead of time to really think about it.
That's part of the process that we have chosen to govern ourselves by.
But if there was going to be something in the warrant that would discuss both options and give people some foreshadowing of what's going to come.
Isn't Jay,
The J's one pager or two pager or three pager,
Yeah,
whatever
wouldn't
it's
that-
down to,
wouldn't
and
that
then
cover-
a financial sheet. Tim, you think we can pull something together showing costs of option A, option B? and-
We're also gonna have a pretty good presentation.
Tim, if you could just,
Yeah.
sorry to make you get up, but people at home are watching.
Tim Olson, Director of Public Works. We're also gonna have a pretty good presentation from our architect. That's going to go through the options as well as the difference in cost.
There you go.
So we could even leave that up or somehow
Yeah.
keep people in tune with that.
Yeah.
And have a handout. I think Jay's two-page, we can, I believe it has all those, or it has numbers that needs to be revised, so, based on the new estimates.
Get the new estimate, get it revised, get it to me, we'll try to print it and send it with the
Put it
warrant.
with the warrant, I think that's good, because then it gives people a bit of a heads up, and I think that's
and
important.
they can ask questions
Right,
because they'll have information.
Right, because
then.
you know how many articles you come into town meeting to look at, and it's really, I think it'll ruin people's confidence if they say, wow, if they don't know what they're doing by
I
the
agree.
morning
If there's
of
question
town.
marks in there, people are like,
Right,
well,
exactly. So I like that plan.
Yep.
I think I'm happy with that.
just another question with the presentations. Jay, you're doing the CPC one, of course, and are you going to do the presentation for the Town Hall Building Committee kind of typically,
Yeah, when
Jay,
you
we
do it, right?
I guess
you
I'm
do
kind
it
of thinking
2.6 or
of
2.7.
right. So I'm thinking, Jay, you typically come up, you introduce kind of all the CPC articles at once, right? I'm wondering if it's, as far as a cadence, and talk to Mr. Bowler about what he thinks. It'll still be fresh in people's minds, I guess, but it'd be kind of nice to have the information together,
Well,
almost.
The two CPC grants are separate articles.
Right.
And all of the information from Mike and from the architect will be done as part of the presentation prior to the vote on the CPC article.
CPC.
I'm only going to say a few sentences, and then I'm going to introduce Mike, and then he's going to introduce the architect. So they'll make their presentation, step back, and then all of the questions will be open up. So I think any and all questions will happen
happen right
during
there.
the debate on the CPC grant.
Yeah, okay.
One suggestion is, can you just, maybe I'm speaking out of turn here, but can you just add the 133 or 135K delta that you might need for option B as a contingency? And so change the 357 number by adding 135 to it and write not to exceed?
Yeah, that
No,
would,
because we want to walk out of there with a decision, is what you guys just said. So if we vote just for a blank amount, then you guys still don't know
You
which
guys
way
still
to
don't
go.
have a decision whether it's.
Yeah, you guys need a decision. We need to know a
Well-
decision at the end
Well,
of
if
this
you
meeting.
go to a not to exceed number that carries them both, all you need to do is put some wording in the warrant itself that,
But then we still don't know which option we were going to go with.
You need to make the motion.
wanna have
You need
no-
the motion to actually say.
We want to know which option you're going to, right? At the end of this
See where you're
meeting.
going with it, but we need to,
yeah.
like, this
Yep.
town meeting has to end the discussion on A or B, and that's what we're hoping to do.
Right? That's what I heard you guys say. You want to walk out of that. That's what Jack said. You want to walk out of that meeting with a decision.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
We thought we gave them to you.
All
All right, so in essence of
yeah.
moving
ahead.
on here, I make a motion that we approve Article 2-7.
Second.
I'd like to, are we going to amend the article to reflect what we just talked about?
I don't think we need to, because Town Hall Building Committee and Jay are gonna talk extensively about both the options with the architects and all that stuff in the presentations, unless, Tom, you have something else to add.
No, the only amendment that I was going to include was one that we had discussed earlier, where where it says Town Hall
For option
located
A.
at 577 Bay Road, including employee relocation costs and all other incidental or related costs. That was
Right,
the only.
and I'll add that to the motion, and I'll also add one more thing, and to Tom's suggestion there, in the parentheses, expected request is $357,767 for option A.
Yes.
That way it's very clear.
Excellent, okay. Has that been seconded?
Second.
Okay.
I second the amended motion.
Second, okay.
Open for discussion.
Yes, further discussion, sure.
David, would you like to comment on that?
Well, when I used to practice law, people would say I get paid by the word. And I think I've already contributed my thoughts so that you're aware of where this is heading in terms of FinCom's printed statement of position, highlighting the need for town meeting to understand that it has the entitlement to choose A or B, along with our preference and our overall view that whatever happens, the project should go forward. So I appreciate it, Darcy. I don't think I want to bore people anymore.
I mean, David, I agree with that. Unfortunately, we've already voted 4-1, so we can't change our vote. So at this point, we're 4-1. So that information's out there, however we present town meeting, so we can't go
We've
back in
agreed to
time now.
disagree about it,
Yeah,
right?
so I mean.
Now it's town meetings.
Yeah, now it's town meeting, so I don't, and.
I'll just say,
Right.
I don't know parliamentary procedure as well as perhaps I should, but I don't know why a motion to reconsider a prior vote would be out of order if you were also inclined. That is, I don't know if the prior vote is in cement to preclude further discussion if you wished.
I'm not in favor of changing my mind. Thought about it long and hard.
This is the best way
Yeah.
forward. I don't think we need to we don't need to turn back the clock.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
So we need to vote.
All right, so all those in favor as amended for Article 2-7?
Aye.
All right, excellent.
Is that a unanimous vote? That's a unanimous vote?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, we are on to 2-8, Public Safety Building Garage Doors. To see if the town will raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds a sum of money for the purpose of repairing or replacing overhead garage doors at the Public Safety Building, including all incidental or related costs, or take any action thereon or relative thereto. Expected request is $25,800.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Further
Thank you,
dis-
gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you very much.
for your time.
They've had a long day today.
Yes, they
Ooh,
do.
Yes.
good grief. Thank you,
Thank
Mike.
you, Mike.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Jack.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jack.
Jack. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you, Jay.
So it's been moved, 2-8 has been moved and seconded.
Don did.
Any further discussion?
This, just for the folks at home, is to continue making the building weather-tight and usable, since its original building didn't quite meet expectations.
And it's been
This will-
tested and proven that
It's
a
been tested
solution.
and proven.
Yes.
We've figured out part of the solution. Now we're going to finish the rest of the solution.
Yes.
And I think this could go in consent agenda as well.
Great.
So,
All right.
Need a vote.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, excellent. Okay, 2-9, water treatment. To see if the town will vote to amend the vote taken under Article 2-18 of the April 6, 2019 annual town meeting by allowing the funds that were previously approved for pretreatment to be used for either pretreatment, a new well development, or other solutions which is determined by the town and its consultants to be the most effective and cost-effective solution to the town's water quality issues, or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
So moved?
Second.
Further discussion on this?
Yes, I would like to see the amount. I think that people should know what we're broadening this to. What was it, 1.5?
1.5.
1.5, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yep. Point?
So by allowing the $1.5 million that was previously approved?
Yes.
Right.
So where it says allowing the funds that were, we'll change that to the $1.5 million that was previously approved.
Pretreatment to be used.
Anything else?
I think
I make a motion to approve the amended motion.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. All right, 3-1, Wetlands Protection Bylaw. To see if the town will vote to amend the town's general bylaw by inserting a new chapter, what is that, 38? Wetlands protection is set forth in appendix blank, or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
So this was my interest here, and the purpose was to update our bylaw to include all the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, model bylaw, and to go along with the 197 other towns that have adopted this bylaw in some form. We already have a good set of regulations, but the feeling was that we need to make our bylaw the strongest and then have the regulations support the bylaw. So I've done a lot of work on it, talked to a lot of people. The FinCom felt that it needs more time to be vetted by various people in town, and so asked if it could come back in the spring. And so that's the purpose of taking it out of the warrant right now, with the plan to have it broadly reviewed and then bring it back for ATM in the spring.
So do you want to make a motion that we take no action?
Yeah, it'll stay in the warrant. It'll stay in the warrant, right?
Do you want to withdraw it from the
Or
warrant?
does it come out of the
I
warrant?
would like for it to come out.
Can
so-
it still come out of the warrant?
You could vote to
Yeah.
reopen to
Yeah,
take it out, just to take
That's
this
what you
out.
want to do, then we
Yeah.
can, yeah, okay.
All right, I make a motion that we reopen the warrant to take out Article 3-1, the Wetlands Protection Bylaw.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
then we have to close the warrant?
I make a motion that we then close said warrant.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Yes,
Aye.
great.
Aye,
Thank
okay,
you.
great.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Rosie. 4-1, amendment to compensation tables. To see if the town will vote to adopt the revised compensation table set forth in the appendix, or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
So moved? Could this be on the consent agenda too?
I think it should.
Yeah.
I think we typically have in the past. Sometimes
Yes,
people
I
put a
think so
hold on
too.
it, but we have in the past.
Any further discussion on this?
Will those wage revisions be available, the compensation tables, will they be available at town meeting, or will people?
Yeah,
Okay.
they'll be in the
There's an
appendix, whatever
but
appendix it
I
ends up
think it's
being.
going to be
Yeah.
appendix B or C, so.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Great, thank you. Okay, 4-2, Home Rule Petition 550 Highland Street. To see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to petition the General Court for special legislation to exempt the property located at 550 Highland Street from local taxation for the period of time when said property is leased by the Department of Conservation and Recreation to one or more residential curators, and abate any taxes assessed to date and as yet uncollected, as set forth in the appendix, provided, however, that the general court may make clerical or editorial changes of form only to the bill unless the Board of Selectmen approves amendment to the bill before enactment by the general court, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to approve amendments within the scope of the general objective of the petition, or take any other action thereon or relative thereto.
So moved?
Second.
Second, further discussion on this?
That's good.
Who's going to present on this one?
We
question.
usually just make that decision when we meet with the moderator and do the warrant script, but either you can, or you can ask me to, or whatever you want. It's
Whomever.
just, mostly it's a housekeeping
It's
issue.
a housekeeping
Tom,
issue
is
for the
thi-
most
Would
part.
this, in your opinion, because we're asking for a home rule petition, would this be allowed to be included in the consent agenda or not?
Yes. I don't see any reason why it couldn't be.
Thank you.
I don't think it's a controversial article. It was something that town
I think
meeting
it's pretty-
previously took in.
I mean, it
advised
was
the vote on.
controversial, but-
You know, just like to move on.
Yeah, yeah.
Go away.
I think it's fine.
think it's-
Yeah, typically anything that's
And you're-
non-controversial.
And someone will be clear in the next steps, because this is really in the end. This is sort of,
Yeah.
then there's how many more steps after this?
Hopefully, the legislature just does what we ask them
Hopefully,
to do. We close the book on it.
Agreed. That'd be great to get
And
that.
I would almost say put it in consent, but I think we need the,
I think we do
I
too.
think-
I need to get some mileage on. Say, listen, we listen to the people.
Yeah.
We worked hard at this over 2
right.
years.
That's what, yeah.
I'd rather just have it just disappear on a consent agenda with 4 other things. Let's make them like, hey, somebody came to town, they made it, they citizens
You
petition,
asked, here we are again.
voted for it, and
Yeah.
we got back and forth, back and forth.
I agree.
So I think we need to
yeah.
sort of get some mileage out of it, so.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Show the town that we listen to them, we're working hard, because this has been 2 years, I mean,
Yeah, at least, right?
yeah, and it went a couple ways, so it wasn't always easy, so.
Mary Alice, you have a question?
I was missing a second on the previous one on the compensation tables.
Oh.
I think-
Darcy made the motion, I didn't have a second, and then I had the vote.
Is that Rosie?
I think
thought
Rosie
Rosie
did
did
it.
it.
Rosie or I did it. I think we did it at the same time.
Go to
You
the
can choose
videotape.
whoever.
Thank you, sir. Oh, please.
Okay, on 4-3, amendment to income limitations for senior tax deferral. To see if the town will vote to increase the annual income gross receipts threshold for single non-head of household filers under Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41A, from $40,000 to $58,000, or take any action thereon or relative thereto.
So moved.
Make a motion to approve Article 4-3.
Second.
Second, okay.
Sorry.
All right. Further discussion?
Yes, yes. Tom, I'll just ask you about this, if I may. Single non-head of household filers. Does that make any difference if it's a head of household? I mean, isn't a single person usually a head of household?
Yes.
Right? I don't
I
know.
would imagine.
That is probably the case.
Yeah.
This is the
Catch.
language that had been presented. I've seen this in other town warrants as well for other
Yeah.
communities that have approved this same thing,
Yeah.
so.
Kind of redundant, right? A little bit, or not?
So what should it say, sorry? What are you recommending it say?
It actually seems like it's contrarian.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Single head of household, right. Right?
Single non-head, oh, right.
I don't understand how.
Right,
what's supposed
it's a little confusing.
What does non-head of household mean?
Everyone who
Would
isn't.
mean somebody who just lived in the house, right?
But if you just live in the
Right.
house
Right.
and you're single, then you don't own it. I mean, it's a.
But yeah, that doesn't.
You're not responsible for all the bills and.
Right, and taxes.
So forth.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you think, Tom?
I'd have to look at the statute again to see specifically what it
It's
says.
because it's kind of confusing to me.
Right, no, I understand the point.
Yeah.
I would have to find the statute and take a look at it.
Okay.
So how do we vote?
I know that you want to have the language right before we vote to close the warrant, but vote on the warrant, but
I mean, I'd leave it to trust Tom on whether to
I was
leave it
gonna
in
say,
or take it
would
out.
you trust town council in making sure this language is
Yeah.
right?
I'm okay voting on it with him
Just one.
looking into that and I can make a decision, because I'm in favor of it regardless, so.
Okay.
And just one last thing before we vote, I would not put this in the consent agenda, even though I think it would be a consent agenda item.
you wanted-
I'd like to make sure that people really know what it's about, that we're making this easier for people to do, instead of just kind of losing it in the consent agenda. That's my only comment on it.
Makes
Just because we're
sense.
always trying to help our seniors out and stuff like that, and
Well,
so.
and it's a way to promote the program.
It's a way to
too.
promote the
That we're
program.
talking about it, and then we're making sure that it's
Exactly.
available to more people as a way
Right.
to let people know, hey,
Right.
it's available.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I think that's.
Makes sense, okay. So Sean, did you make a motion already?
I think I did.
Oh, you did, Darcy?
Or Bill
Okay.
did, and/or Darcy, or.
I'll let Darcy go with it. Darcy made,
All right, Darcy made the motion.
I'll second it.
Bill, you seconded it?
For the
Okay.
motion, right,
So all those in
revised.
favor?
Aye.
All right. Excellent.
I was gonna have time for lunch. I hope there's a lot of food. It's only 9 o'clock. This is amazing.
So, the next agenda item is to set a date for a possible extra meeting for STM prep. Do we need that, or are we on schedule? Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Good night,
Thank you very
David,
much.
do I understand that your earlier note about FinCom votes, basically you were 4 members at the time, so all those should reflect 4-0 votes?
Yes.
Except for the one where you're going to refer in the article to the Book of Recommendations?
Well, our new member hasn't had an opportunity to debate that as yet, so it was for,
Okay, so
At that
4-0
time.
on all the others, and we'll just wait to hear from you after you meet all 5 of you together.
I'll be in Portugal.
Okay,
be
then
at
I
a
won't be
restaurant.
waiting to hear from you.
We'll talk to
Can I come
somebody
with you?
else.
Is there room for me in your suitcase?
You're all
all welcome.
Good
See you,
night.
David, thank you.
We all set with town council?
I think so.
we are.
We're all set.
Tom, thank you very
Thank
much.
you,
Appreciate it.
Tom.
Marissa, thank
Have a
you for your
nice
help.
night,
That's it.
everybody.
Okay. Thanks for being here.
Oh, we're alone.
All right, so do we need a special meeting?
I
Extra
feel
meeting.
okay about
I don't think we do.
No.
I mean, just the next one with Mr. Buller where we pick who's
I'm
presenting what,
not
right?
a big fan of just having meetings. I love
Right.
seeing all of you. You can all
But you
come
think
visit me
we-
anytime you want, but we don't need to have a
We've made
meeting.
enough
And we
progress.
I think we made a lot of progress on this.
Good.
I think that, the key item really at special town meeting is going to be the discussion about town hall building
Right.
project.
Same
And
doesn't read the
it's
same
going to be
way.
up to us to really present the information as completely as possible and as clearly as possible, and get a decisive vote from town meeting so that we know which direction we're going in.
Did we plug this?
They already did that last week. That was, isn't that, oh, that's
No.
the, oh, that's the,
No, this is
that's
the-
the addition, that's the add-on, that's the.
But we didn't say
housing
anything about this
production plan.
tonight.
We haven't done anything without this.
I'm
Haven't looked at
if Mr.
Wanna
Chair, I
plug
can plug
it?
it right
Sure.
now. Just another add to the announcements. Public hearing for the Hamilton Housing Production Plan. The Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust having a meeting Wednesday, October 2nd at 6 p.m. at the library. Come and help determine where affordable housing should be located in Hamilton.
And that was kind of what Russ alluded to when he said that that's all they'll really be doing on the October 2nd
Correct.
meeting. Could you take a few seconds to help me decide, you're not going to set a date for a special town meeting warrant, right? So we just need to decide what items you might want to have on the agenda for the next meeting. I have currently policy on board and committee appointments, draft, first reading, whatever you want to call it,
Yep, first reading.
and discussion with town moderator on special town meeting script and
Right.
procedures. From the chairman today, I got that you may be considering doing town manager evaluations at that meeting, or is 2 weeks not enough time?
I think we're gonna have to wait until STM,
Really?
Until after FCM?
don't you think?
You don't think in 2 weeks? 2 weeks to fill out the form and meet with Joe? Well, 10 days, give me a few days just to compile it. What do you think?
I'm fine with it. It's-
Yeah, I could put a concerted effort into it.
Okay.
To finding the date, because we have this off our shoulders, right?
Right.
I think so.
Okay. You think so, Darcy?
Yeah, I'll see what I can, I'm still
All right.
kinda,
Yeah.
I haven't even started.
Okay. No, well, I sent the form today, so I'll take responsibility for being late.
Was there a form today?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't see it.
this afternoon.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
I haven't been on there yet.
Okay.
Have to
All right, so
spin it up.
yeah, let's pencil that in.
Okay. What else? Anybody else have other ideas, or?
I had one, but I just forgot.
Well, who wants to meet? Do you want to meet?
What day?
It'll be a week from today at 9:30.
Monday the 30th.
It's your school?
Monday the 30th? Yeah, I can do 9:30.
9:30
Yeah.
a.m.?
Okay. So it gives you a week to remember.
Yep.
9:30 at 9:30.
Is it?
And then also, I think that goes with the warrant stuff. We'll pick who presents what
Yep.
and that kind of thing. That
Yeah, I
covers
think it's
all
part of the
language,
discussion with the
all
moderator, yeah.
General scope of it.
Any other ideas? Things that you want to get to next,
confused.
in 2 weeks?
If it's not had a household.
Not at the moment, no.
Okay.
No.
Just maybe I didn't look through your update yet, but an update from Amoresco, either just an update from you or them,
Not
since
head
we
of
just approved
household.
their polls,
That doesn't
when we go
qualify.
live with that and
And they
what
can't
kind
have
of,
a spouse in the house.
Happy to
what
bring
kind of
them
monies
in.
we've
Yeah.
collected so far, what are we looking at
Single.
earnings over the contract and all that kind of stuff.
Welcome.
Happy to bring them in.
We got you.
Right, independently.
I think that's really all I
But it
have.
is- it is,
I can think of anyway.
Okay.
It's the same me. It
Alright.
could just, it could
I
say
think
either
it's something
non-head of
I'll
household
write
or
it
single.
Yeah,
down.
I mean, and certainly, if anybody has any ideas that, any things that they think of between now and Monday,
Yeah.
send them to the chairman or myself, and we'll talk about them at the agenda development meeting on Monday.
Perfect.
Motion to Adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Good meeting, everybody. Thank you. Good dialogue.
Yeah, that was
Very
good.
impressive.